Let's talk about how the first half of the 2022 season went for the Phillies. Yo, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to Phillies Hats Media, and today we're going to be talking about the first half of the 2022 season for the Phillies and the expectations going into the second half. Now, guys, before we get into this video, please subscribe if you haven't yet. Please engage the bell. Please like this video, comment on this video, share this video, and let's get into this. So the Phillies enter the All-Star break with a 49-43 record, 6 games over 500, as they are tied for the third wildcard spot in the National League with the St. Louis Cardinals. So this is where I thought they'd be. Of course, we're without our, reigning Nlmvp and Bryce Harper. We definitely had a strange first half of the season through 92 games. Of course, 11 more than what would be a normal, first half of the season at 81 games. We definitely had a lot of high expectations going into the season, right? With signing Nick Castellanos to a 5-year, $100 million contract, and signing Kyle Schwarber to a 4-year, $79 million contract. This also included some moves to the bullpen, with signing Brad Hand to a 1-year, $6 million deal. The same with Jerry Smith, a 1-year, $6 million deal, and signing Corey Knebel to a 1-year, $10 million deal. So there certainly were, a good amount of moves needed to Dean Gabrowski after the lockout was over. But of course, prior to the lockout happening, that is when he did sign Corey Knebel to that 1-year, $10 million contract. So at that time when we did sign Corey Knebel, he was supposed to be just a setup man. But I think signing two guys that can't play defense in Kyle Schwarber and Nick Castellanos really wasn't the best decision. I mean, I'm much more a Kyle Schwarber fan than I am a Nick Castellanos fan. But signing both of them certainly was kind of a Dave Dombrowski type move. This is a guy that loves to throw money. It's, certain guys, a lot of power hitters, and this hasn't really worked out. When he arrived in Boston, Mookie Betts was already thriving. Of course, Dave Dombrowski's first full season in Boston was in 2016, so it wasn't like he helped bring out Mookie Betts in the minor leagues. It wasn't like he helped, young stars in Boston like Xander Bogaerts, really progress through the minor leagues. I mean, these are guys that already were in the majors when he arrived there. It's not like he really was instrumental in helping these guys move along their careers. And he only stuck around one season after they won the World Series. At the end of 2019, he was fired. So Dave Dombrowski, he's kind of had a track record of doing this kind of stuff. But to start off this little mid-season review here, we're going to go behind the plate with Timut in the second year of a 5-year contract. He definitely started off not on the highest note, that is for sure. But since then, he has posted a .252 average, 8 home runs, 38 RBIs to go along with a .722 OPS. So he's definitely started to turn his season around over his last 7 games, hitting .375, .321 over his last 15, and .259 over his last 30. So he's certainly started to turn his season around. So an OPS well above the 1,000 mark over the last week. Even defensively, too. Saw that catch he made, pretty much leaning into the Phillies dugout, making a catch on a pop-up. Something he wasn't able to do, a month and a half ago, right? A ball up right up against the netting, and he just totally dropped it. I understand we're all human, we all make mistakes, but he's really looked better over this last month. I mean, he looks like he has he's playing with a different energy. Going in the second half of the season for JT, I'm looking for him to drive the OPS above 800. I really mean that. I mean, sad as low as it was, towards kind of creeping towards the 600s for a while there, when he was really slumping. I think he's definitely capable of getting it up above 800. And think about that. I mean, that's pretty cool for a catcher to have an OPS above 800. He'd be back in that BCIB talk. And for him to hit around 260, 270, I don't care about the averages much, but the power, certainly has been kind of It's been better recently with 8 home runs, but, he definitely needs to, start hitting the ball at the ballpark just a little bit more. And looking over at first base, Reese Hoskins with a .244 average, 19 home runs, 44 RBI to go along with a .816 OPS. So he's definitely had his ups and downs. Really got off to a slow start to begin the season. Pretty much been seeing a lot of time out of the tool hole for the Phils. But this is a guy that consistently draws walks. This is a guy that sees the baseball very well. I mean, led the National Leagues in walks in 2019. But one thing about Reese, he's really been good at it over the past few months, has been consistently hitting home runs. runs. Right? This is a guy, his home runs usually come in bunches, and they still kind of do in a way, but his home runs have really been spread out more, and that's one thing I'm really happy about with Reese, is he's starting to cluster his home runs together as much. Like, he's starting to spread them out more, and I really like to see that. So as I said, 44 RBI, just 6 shy of 100. This is a guy that would have the 100 RBI mark last year if he had not been hurt in late August. If the ended his season, unfortunately. So going into the second half of the season, I mean, it's at around 250. I mean, 244 is fine. This is as long as that OPS is still, sitting way above the 800 mark, which it is right now at 816. I'm pretty content with this. I mean, as I say, he's not the best defender. He's kind of just a clumsy defender. He doesn't really look like his head's in the game a lot, so hopefully he can clean that up. And honestly, he's never really been a good of a defender at first base. He just hasn't. I don't really know if that's really going to change that much. But pretty much what I've expected out of Reese Hoskins. And Derek Hall, right? Kind of a short sample size we've seen out of him, only getting 61 at-bats. But in those 61 at-bats, he's hit 262 and 4 home runs and 8 RBI and provided an 827 OPS. An 827 OPS for this guy. So that's just wonderful. Love to see a young rookie come up and really provide a jolt. So in his first couple of games, he certainly was, hitting the long balls for sure, right? Long ball hole. Second half of the season is going to be interesting to see what happens to him when Bryce Harper comes back. I think it's going to be one of those things you got to cross that bridge when you get there. Where will he play? When Bryce Harper comes back, but you're not going to worry about that right now. I mean, he's certainly picked up a load. He's certainly kind of filled a void. Not to the point of Bryce Harper, of course, but he's certainly filled some of the void that has been left. With guys like Segora, Bryce Harper not being in the lineup. So that's pretty much what we needed and more. Moving on to Segora, who has been out since early June after he fractured his right index finger. Through 167 at-bats, he hit 275 with 6 home runs and 19 RBI to go along with a 731 OPS. This is a guy that puts the ball in play a lot. He doesn't really strike out all that much. I'm not going to say he rarely ever strikes out, but he doesn't strike out, as much as of course the power hitters do, like Schwarber and Nick and Harper. I mean, he doesn't strike out to that kind of level. I mean, he's an above average second baseman. I mean, he's a much better second baseman than he's a shortstop. Hopefully he could get his average up around 300. I mean, we all know he's capable of that. He really hasn't had one phenomenal season since arriving in Philadelphia. I don't really love his style of play, but he will be back probably around the same time Bryce Harper's back, maybe a little bit before, hopefully around mid-August or so. So fortunately he has been out since early June. It's hard to believe he's been out that long, but this is a guy that's been very streaky. He's a very streaky hitter. So when he does come back, really just looking for this guy to just keep having that simple approach. He's a table set at the top of the lineup. He loves to put the ball in play, so that's one good thing you could say about him. And Alec Bohm over at third base. It's definitely been an odd season for him. He started off the season not really getting much playing time due to his terrible defense, but he's really started to pick it up. At 276 average, 6 home runs, 35 RBI to go along with a OPS just 1 point shy of 700 at 699. I'd like to see to pull the baseball a little bit more, and his defense has been better. A guy has not had a good career track record with being a good defender. He's definitely been better over the last few months, so I'm looking for him to continue that in the second half of the season. This is a guy I do think can hit 300, but I'm more worried about that OPS. It's certainly started to climb. For his last 30 games, he's hitting 299, with the OPS, above 700. So this guy certainly started to turn his season around. He started off, really hot. He kind of went into a little rut there for a little while, and then now he's settled back in where he was at the beginning of the season. So hopefully he can carry that through to the second half. Peter Gorse, who's definitely been battling some injuries this year for the second straight year. 175 at-bat, 234 average, just 1 home run, 17 RBI, and a 646 OPS. The guy's a terrible defender. I mean, not as bad as he was last year, I guess you could say, when he provided us just a 640 OPS and hit 209 with a 270 OBP. He's definitely been a little bit more productive, but not anything crazy, right? This guy's in the final year of his 2-year contract. He's not coming back. As I said, the injuries are a problem with this guy. He's not healthy, and I'm just not impressed with him. I am just not. This was the whole plan, right? I remember talking about this last year. I mean, this Didi's on the final year of his deal. Bryson Stott, who's been kind of, seeing some time at second base due to Gene Segora's injury. Bryson Stott will slide over the shortstop when Didi's contract is up after this year. It's pretty straightforward. Speaking of Bryson Stott, through a 202 ABs, hitting 188 with 6 home runs and 26 RBI, a 562 OPS. And as I talked about, before. I mean, this is a guy who really started off the season on a rough note, and he didn't really get a whole lot of consistent playing time under manager Joe Girardi. And then in early June, Renrom Thompson took over as the manager. He played every single day for the most part. I think you really have to judge him over that span, over the last like 45 to 50 games or so. Over his last 7 games, he's hitting 260 now with a 296 on base percentage. And over his last 15, basically he's been 2 weeks, 231 with a 298 on base percentage. So we all know this guy is a better hitter than what he's hitting this year overall. So I do think it's unfair to judge his overall numbers, but even his numbers over the last 45 haven't been great, but they are better than the overall numbers this year. 202 ABs. It's not like he's only had like 50 at-bats. I mean, the guy's had, plenty of at-bats. I just think that the beginning of the season, that really weird, run he was in, I think it's kind of hindered him. He had a great spring training. He's a very good defender. He has great range at short. He hits the ball to all fields. So the future is definitely bright for this guy, only 24 years of age. And moving on to the outfield, Kyle Schwarber, first year of a 4-year contract out in left field. Of course, the original plan was when we did sign Castellanos and Schwarbs is that they were going to platoon DH, and left field together. But due to Bryce Harper's unfortunate UCL tear, it's pretty much restricted him to just being a designated hitter. Prior to him fracturing that left thumb, Castellanos has moved out to right field, and then Kyle Schwarber has been out left field ever since. So a 2.08 average for Schwarbs. He is headed to the All-Star game, 29 home runs, 58 RBIs, and 820 OPS. So it's definitely been an odd season for Schwarber. This is just weird. I mean, when you have a guy who was at 30 home runs before the All-Star break, and the guy's just hitting just above 200, I mean, that's got to be a weird season. He's really, done a good job of ranking up the walks at 52 on the year. That's certainly no slouch for sure. But as I said, as of late, has not done a good job with that. He's definitely been struggling. Just about to hit, creep up above the 230 mark. And, with this batting average a week and a half ago, his OPMs was just about to climb over the 900 mark. And he's fallen all the way down to 208. We all know how streaky this guy is. The guy's a power hitter. He's not a good defender, but he's giving you Kyle Schwarber type defense out in left field. Not anything great, but not like too terrible. He has a really good arm. I think Kyle Schwarber's arm is very underrated, but he doesn't have good range out there. He's a very slow runner out there. So 58 RBI, certainly no slouch for Schwarber. But a lot of solo shots as of late. So during the second half of the season, I'd like to see him be a little bit more consistent, start to rank up those walks again. He's kind of turned away from that a little bit, and he certainly is a strikeout king. Moving on to the center field position, certainly been a question mark, right? I mean, Matt Fearling, a guy that I have the most confidence in, with guys like Odubel Herrera and Mickey Moniak have also seen some time out there. Herrera's provided a 244 average to go along with a 679 OPS. He hustles though. I will say that he hustles out of the left-hand side of the batter's box. He's a terrible defender. Not impressed with his defense at all. He's a deer in the headlights out there. The Phillies center field position has been a mess for years now. Hopefully this changes next year. We're just going to have to go with this the rest of the season. Of course, Matt Fearling is their best option out there. To get to that in a little bit, but only 5 home runs and 19 RBI for Herrera. He's a very streaky hitter. A lot of streaky hitters on this team, and Herrera is certainly one of them. Moving on to Matt Fearling, a 231 average, 3 home runs, 13 RBI, a 646 OPS. This is a guy that I was super down on the beginning of the season. I was not a fan of Matt Fearling. I really didn't like him getting any playing time, but he has been my favorite option out in center field. He has cooled off a little bit over the last few weeks, last month and a half or so. Overall, he has really looked a lot better than the first few months of the season. He's definitely provided good defense on center field. Face planting, out in the outfield grass. Not afraid to get dirty out there. He plays the game in a pretty aggressive way, which I like to see. So, that's one thing that I've been really impressed with Matt Fearling. He plays the game hard. Also, has moments with coming up clutch. I mean, yesterday that RBI double with 646 OPS. I think you can see that a little bit higher, but continue that good defense out in center field. So this guy certainly has potential, and only at 25 years old. And Nick Castellanos, getting on to him. I got a lot of topic of discussion for this guy, signing a 5-year, $100 million contract with the Phillies. He's posted a 251 average, 8 home runs, 46 RBI, go along with a 673 OPS. Certainly underwhelming for sure. This is a guy that had 34 home runs last year with the Cincinnati Reds. Hit way over 300. He was an all-star last year. So this has been a really just a lousy season for Nick Castellanos. The home run department, probably the biggest disappointment of them all, and that reflects in the 673 OPS that he has. So start hitting home runs. He only hit 1 home run in the month of June. That when we pick up the start of play against the Chicago Cubs July 22nd, he's still homerless in July. I mean, the home runs are just ridiculous. This is a guy that is a power hitter. And just where are the home runs? Where are the home runs? He doesn't have good range out in right field. I'm not as worried about that because he shouldn't be out there. He's out there just because of Harp's injury, 2 injuries, I guess you could say. But I'm not as upset about that because honestly, as I said, he's never been a good defender. But I mean, this is the biggest problem. He's not walking. He's not even really collecting extra base hits. I understand he's had a little hitting streak going, but it's been a lot of one-hit games. To go in the second half, start hitting home runs. I mean, seriously, it's going to be a miracle if he even hits 20 at this point. It's just embarrassing. The guy only has 8 home runs, and this guy's considered a power hitter. Hit 34 last year, so super underwhelming year for Nick Castellanos. As I said, I mean, mistake. I mean, signing both of these guys, Schwarber and Castellanos, was certainly a mistake. Moving on to the reigning Nlmvp, Bryce Harper, 318 average to 242 at-bats, 15 runs, 48 RBI, a 984 PS. We certainly miss Bryce. I miss him every single day. I've gotten used to seeing him. It's been weird. It definitely took an adjustment. But I certainly miss this guy. I mean, it just pains me to turn on the TV and not see him play. But prior to his injury, he certainly was putting up great numbers. I mean, this guy picked up right where he left off last year in his MVP year. I mean, right where he left off. The OPS just below 1,000. He was probably going to have close to 40 home runs this year. During the second half of the season, when he does come back, hopefully he could just get close to 30 home runs. I certainly think he could do that. Especially if he could just hit around 27, 28, that would be incredible. He's definitely capable of doing that. I mean, Bryce Harper lives for the mid to late August to September. This guy puts up great numbers. He's had great career numbers during those couple months. Hopefully he can get around upper 70s in RBIs. He would have had over 100 this year. It's certainly disappointing. He would have been in another running for another NL MVP, but it is what it is. So hopefully when he does come back, he'll be able to start out in right field again because that UCL has definitely had a good amount of time to rest. So just to touch on the bench a little bit, I'm not really going to go too much into it. Yohan Camargo has certainly been a pretty solid option despite him having some injuries. He's a very good defender. He is a switch hitter, which I also like. And Nlmvp is also another guy that's certainly come up clutch for us as well. Has provided a 779 OPS as a part-time player, which I'm very happy about. And Garrett Stubbs is the backup catcher. Certainly has had his moments as well as definitely showing some fame. Of course, the bench isn't as much of a importance, I guess you could say, now that we do have the DH in the National League. 262 average for Stubbs and 3 home runs and 820 OPS as a backup catcher. I mean, think about that. Think about Andrew Knapp, and then you go take a look at Garrett Stubbs. It's been just a far better catcher. Andrew Knapp, a wonderful replacement as the backup catcher. Moving on to star rotation, Zach Lear at the top, the all-star snub, a 8-5 record with a 2.89 ERA and 99 and 2/3 innings, just about 100 innings to go on with a 108 whip. I mean, definitely an all-star snub. So this guy is certainly the ace of the rotation. I mean, he definitely had a rough start to go into the all-star break like he did last year, but going into the second half of the season, use that all-star snub as motivation to continue to mow hitters down and overpower guys with a fastball. Aaron Nola, we have not seen this kind of stretch out of Aaron Nola, pretty much going into the all-star break since his all-star nod in 2018. 6-7 on the year, which I don't even really think about. A 3.13 ERA, 126 and 2/3 innings pitched. This guy's an inning eater. 137 strikeouts to go along with a 0.91 whip. So in some ways, in some departments, he has been better than Zach Lear. Of course, I still consider Zach Lear the ace of this rotation. Of course, this guy's done a better job of eating more innings than Zach Lear has, simply because Zach Lear, of course, did miss some time at the beginning of the season, due to that shoulder problem. Hopefully, Aaron Nola can bring this in the second half of the season. I love it because this is a guy that has not done well in mid to late August going into September, right? So it's going to be very interesting to see how he does then. I think that's going to be the true test for this guy. But the curveball has not looked like a beast ball. He's definitely gotten much better command. He's kept it down in the zone more. And the changeup has a lot of zip on it. I mean, it has a lot of zip on it. The home runs have definitely been down. I just can't believe how good this guy has been. On to Kyle Gibson, certainly inconsistent. A 5-3 record with a 4.35 ERA, 97 1/3 innings pitched to the 1.20 whip. I mean, this guy's just a decent 4-5 starter. He's not anything great, and keeps the ball on the ground. Usually, of course, he does have these weird games where he strikes out like 7+. That's pretty unusual for a guy like Kyle Gibson. But the infield defense seems to be good behind him. So he's giving you kind of just Kyle Gibson numbers for the first half. He's not anything great. He's on the final year of his contract. I mean, I just look for him to kind of just be a little more consistent in the second half. Zach Eflin, who's currently injured right now, he has had a setback with that knee injury. 3-5 record with a 4.37 ERA and 68 innings of work. Which has got to be more consistent. As I said, he's one of those guys that doesn't have the best stuff, and he relies so much on location. If his stuff's just a little bit off, he just gets hit around. I mean, so bad. And moving on here, Ranger Suarez. 7-5 with a 4.07 ERA through 84 innings. He's definitely looked better lately. Of course, he is coming off of the IL with some back soreness, a 1.42 whip. This is a guy that does not go very deep in the games. You see only 84 innings of work. Of course, some of that is a little bit diluted because of the missing some time on the IL. Does not go very deep in the games. He really did well last year, and it seems like that same success that was in last year hasn't really flowed into this year. So hopefully we could see that a little bit more in the second half of the season. In the bullpen, finish it up here. The bullpen has really been a bright spot for the Phillies, especially over the last month and a half since Rob Thompson took over as the manager. Sandy Dominguez certainly looks comfortable in the closing spot. A few games he's definitely looked a little bit shaky, but for the most part he's definitely looked a lot better. 4-3, they won a 5 ERA and an 0.94 whip to go along with 41 strikeouts, 34 innings of work. And I love Brad Hand in the setup role and go along with Corey Knebel with a righty-lefty little platoon there in the setup role. And I love that. It's just so dangerous. Hand providing a 2.17 ERA. So this guy has been consistently good all year long. And of course, Corey Knebel first started off as the closer. This didn't work out, and he's definitely done much better in the setup role. A 3.03 ERA for Knebel with 32 strikeouts. It seems like he's not the kind of guy that likes pressure. We saw that with the Dodgers last year. So this is a guy that's definitely much better suited in the closing role. The guys like Andrew Bellotti, Connor Brogdon, they've been great. They really have been great. Of course, Connor Brogdon currently on the IL right now, but his fastball really had a lot of life on it. He was hitting his locations. He certainly was effective with that fastball. And as I talked about, Andrew Bellotti, Nick Nelson definitely have been solid options for the Phillies bullpen. And Jose Alvarado guy has really turned around his season. Ever since coming up from AAA, has been his world's better. He's hitting his spots. He's always had good stuff, but now he's finally starting to hit his spots. So he's just been really overpowering with this stuff. As I said, he's hitting his spots. That's all I care about. So it's 4.39 ERA. It's like ERA was up towards the sixes for a while. And it just keeps getting lower and lower. So I'm still not a huge fan of Alvarado, but I've liked him a lot better recently. Going into the second half of the season, I think it's going to be very interesting when Gene Segora and Bryce Harper do come back. And Zach Eflin does, come back. As I said, did have a setback with the knee, and this is a guy that always seems to have an injury in the second half of the season. I had the same thing last year. He only made one start after the All-Star break, so this is going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. So guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Please subscribe if you haven't yet. Please turn engage bell. Please like this video, comment on this video, share this video. Check out the social media link in the description section at Phillies Social Media, Instagram, follow me on Twitter at Beyond Social Media. Call or text 267-225-3392. Email at philliesandmedia@gmail.com. So guys, thanks for watching mid-season review. A video about Justin Crawford coming soon. So guys, I'm Luke and I'll talk to you. Let's go Phillies. See you guys.